Welcome to the workshop of Brandagda. I, of course, am Brandagda. Today's lesson is brought to us from another viewer. Sent me an email asking about the LGT Starkiller with the crystal chamber. It is their NO.071 series. He was having issues with his board. I think he wanted to replace his replace the entire core on here. I got in touch with LGT. They said they weren't going to do that. They pretty much banned selling the core separately. Too many customers were getting it, tearing their Saber apart. Trying to install the core did not go well, so they kept having to go back and forth with LGT. LGT just said, you know what, this is getting too complicated. So I'm feeling that it is very important for me to put this video out here to show you guys, if you have the LGT Starkiller Saber, it does have the crystal chamber in there. We need to know how to fix this, otherwise you're going to end up having to buy a whole new Saber. It's not really cost effective if it is possible to fix it, and yes, it is possible to fix it. Definitely not easy. It is complicated. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of parts into this thing. During part of the process of teardown, there's a high risk of damaging some of the wires, so you may have to be doing some repair work on that. First time I tore this thing apart, that's how I discovered actually that you're going to have to do some fixing on here. So I am going to have to do some fixing on here. I've damaged a couple of wires that are running up to the PCB and the emitter. But that's great because now I get to show you guys the detail on the amount that's the amount of involvement in here trying to get this thing fixed up. So again, I feel this is important. Let's dive in here. We're going to go through the parts, the tools that we're going to need, because it does come with the Allen key. It comes with a kit that's part of the standard supply, but you're going to need some extra ones. You're going to need one slightly larger than the Allen key. You're going to need a very tiny Phillips if you've got a small tool kit, and we're going to need a little socket, and the socket is to take off the little gold guys here, because they do have to come off, otherwise this part of the chassis or the emitter is not going to come off. So let's get at this thing. We're going to go so far, and then I'm gonna have to remove some soldering so I can get some wires off here. So let's just dive right in here and get at this. So I'm talking so much. So anyway, going to remove some of these greeblies. There's actually the button clips, or the Saber clips. So first off, we've got well, let's the whole thing here. Let's get this pommel. We got a pommel on here. We have the grip. I'm going to come off. As I noted last time in the previous attempt on this, the video that I did, what was it, a year or 2 years ago, give or take? Anyway, that one was a Xeno version. This one does have the Profi in it. The SD card is in there. I do believe they did make some changes, some design changes on here, so we'll kind of go over those a little bit. The grips on here, the black bands, are not plastic, they're not rubber, they are actually metal. Flathead screwdriver, we can take those off. Why would you want to take them off? Well, if you need to replace them or anything, it's not like you're going to get damaged very easily, but if you want to do any weathering of any sort, it's a great idea to take those off. Then you can scratch them up or do the weathering technique however you like. So they did do some, the core on here, the chassis on the core is a lot more detailed than it was before, from what I remember, which is really nice. It's good to know that they are improving their products as they go along. I also remember that the other version did not have a charge port. This one now has a charge port. The last one you had to remove the battery and use the provided battery charger in order to get that going. So let's take our battery out very gently. See if that rolls away on us or not. Good idea. I know there's a reminder. A lot of you guys are familiar with this. Always remove the battery first before you plug it into the computer, before you remove your SD card, anything like that. We do not want to risk any more damage to the board or the electronics. Not that easy or not that cheap to replace. So moving forward, We do need to get the standard Allen key. We can remove the button off the top here. Two screws, spring-loaded button, and that is off. Okay, now we can remove these 6 screws here on either side of the button. Keep track where they're all going. You know, actually, it's really easy if you're going to set everything up to put back together. You might as well make it efficient and easy to remember. Love to hear some feedback from everybody. Any experiences out there? Any other videos of anybody doing a teardown on these and showing any repairs would be great. As always, please like, share, ring the notification bell for future updates. Definitely does help us out in the channel. Keep content going. So now we use the slightly bigger one. It's the only time you're actually going to need this bigger one is to get the get your sight off of here. There we go, we're all set. Now it is loose. We now know this is completely off. Cannot remove it though because we do have to remove those 2 gold screws. So that's what we, let's just show it around for a little bit. That's where the socket comes in. Having the socket is really beneficial because you can use pliers and stuff, but you're gonna run the risk of damaging your Saber chassis here, which, you know, it does go into the weathered look if you're that's what you're going for. Yeah, I know using the handle would be a lot easier for this socket, but really they're not in there that much or that tight. There we go. Now you can remove this emitter section just like that. Okay. Now we're seeing exposed core. We got another PCB board here for our button connection. Nothing else is going to come off of here. There's the 1 screw right here which is going to hold in well, the entire core really, but what I'm finding is that you cannot remove the core because this button PCB is going to have to come out. Now this is the part where I figured out, because I removed that and I was sliding it back and forth and discovered that, yep, that's where you're going to catch these wiring. So this white cable took some pretty good damage to it. I've got exposed wire. The insulation was tore off when I was trying to take it out. Not a good idea. So you want to be careful of that one. Don't make my mistakes. I am here to learn and teach. So this does have to be removed, and the wiring is going to have to be disconnected from that in order for that whole thing to come out. So we're going to go do that, and then we'll come back and continue on. Okay, so we're back. I have unsoldered or disconnected the button board. So you can see where your connections are. Is always a good idea. Do take a picture prior to. This is I've included the picture here, but just so you know, the red goes to the SW1, which is the G, and your black goes to the number 2. So now you know how to solder that back together. If you get a nice clean unsoldering, then your connections are still tin, so you're able to put those back together. Moving forward, we now have our core. We are able to take this apart. We can remove this 1 screw, which is the tighter one because it's a coarser thread and holds that core right in there. So we get this guy out of here. Just like that. Now we're all clear. You can see there's nothing in our way. You still need to be careful removing these, removing the core from this port, because your wires have a tendency they'll twist on you, they'll jump up a little bit, and if you pull it out too fast, you're going to pinch another wire, and that's more work for you to fix up. So we see that this is coming out. Our cables are good. Here we go. We are all taken apart. Look at that. I am noticing from the last one, they did do a lot of redesigning on here. There's a lot more detail in the chassis. If I remember right, this whole ribbed part in here was a separate section. I think there was just 2 screws that held it in there, and that could come right off. I'm not seeing any seams in this anywhere, so it looks like one solid piece. This is metal. This is still plastic. PCB housing here is still plastic as well. So as far as what these screws are doing, we're going to have to discover that one. I could be holding the internals in there. The chamber that the crystal is sitting in, that could be holding on there. This screw here probably holds this whole core, this core section on, and these ones here are holding this part, which is just an empty chamber. So that's what I'm guessing anyways, because if we can take all that part out of there, then you can probably, there's a couple of screws in here I see, which you can probably take the actual crystal out and replace that with a better looking one, if you so choose. Either way, to get at the board wiring here, we've got 2 screws. These are your 2 Phillips ones, so you'll have to have a screwdriver on hand, and your standard Allen key at the end here. It's not terribly complicated if you're comfortable doing this stuff, especially if you've got some experience soldering. We got our Phillips here. Okay, so this whole section should just come right off, like so. Now we have access to the board, which they do. Oh, look at that. That whole section can come off as well. Profit board, V2.2. And so they glue this part down. They glue the board down so it doesn't wiggle around too much on you. PCB wiring at the speaker end. So yeah, look at that. That's quite the chunk of wiring. So you will know that when you're putting this thing back together, all that wiring is going to have to fit back into this clear part, so your core will get back together completely to fit back into the housing. So I have to fix this white cable because I did skin it and pull some of that insulation off of there. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. I don't really think we need to go any further than this. I mean, it's fairly standard. If you want to tear more down, get at the crystal chamber part or fix the PCB. I mean, there's screws there. This comes off, you can fix it. I'm going to go ahead and fix this one cable. Come back here, we'll put it back together and fire it up. Make sure it's going to work on us. Next section update. We got some wiring done up here. So I didn't see any any additional damage anywhere. So what I did was, I had 2 exposed areas here. So I cut the wire, exposed the ends, pre-tinned them, added the shrink wrap on there, and then my shrink hose, soldered everything back together, got it nice and clean. So we are ready to start reassembling. So I will reassemble this part. Get the core back together, and then I'm going to go back in and reconnect this my button board here, and we're going to put it back together. So stay tuned. I'm going to be right back in your world. In my world, it's going to take me a few extra minutes. So see you shortly. Well, here we are, Saber fans. The moment of truth. We're going to fire this thing back up. We're going to put it together, and we're going to make sure everything works. So what I ended up doing is I just cut the ends off here. I resoldered. I exposed them. I pre-tinned them. I soldered them. I put on some shrink wrap or shrink tube, heat tube, Had to make sure I get the wires out of the way before I can put that button board back down. And I don't think I mentioned before, but underneath these two screws are some plastic washers. You don't want to lose those, largely because I mean, it's your metal screws going down to a metal PCB board, so I don't think you want to make any metal contact there. So we made sure we did that. So let's put this thing back together, see if we can get it. Prior to that, this is probably a good point. The battery is back in. Before we completely assemble this thing, we probably want to make sure that this is going to work before we do all that work to put it together, find out we have to take it apart again. So let's see what happens. We got sound, we got lights, button action, so everything works. Okay, it's getting pretty exciting. Let's put it back together. Oh my gosh, where to begin? Okay, looks like we're gonna throw this on. Oops, yeah, I think we're all set. We're all set. We got our screw in there holding our core in place. We could probably throw in one of these guys to hold that silver chassis part in place. Start putting on our buttons. Actually, I guess we got the screws already in there. It's always nice to be working on projects like this. Even the amount of work that's involved, to be able to tear it apart, do your own troubleshooting, fix it on your own. I mean, it is a really good thing. But I am always here. If you want to reach out to me anytime, ask me some questions. I will help out as much as I can. If you're really stuck and having some issues, ship it out to me. Like I will do what I can. I can probably repair it up and send it back out. Completely work in order. It's a Jedi way. How can we help? I mean, I got a pretty cool workshop here, so that's really hard to pick up with small fingers or bigger fingers. Dropped another screw. And dropped another screw. That's why you work on a big surface, is you're going to drop a lot of screws. And I left my other screwdriver back down with my soldering station. There's definitely some tiny parts on some of these Saber designs. Starting to look like a Saber again. If I'd stop dropping pieces. Wonder bar. Button's gonna work. Nothing works. Everything works. Okay, so I got to get my other screwdriver to put the sight back on here. So now that we got that far, I hope you guys learned something on how to disassemble this thing, fix it up, and put it back together, make sure it all works. I'm really excited to put a blade in this thing now, swing it around and make sure we get all our other functions going. So one more extremely brief pause, much more brief for you than it is for me, but we're going to get this, we're going to put a blade in here and have some more fun with it. So be right back.